Hey, it's A. Martinez, and I want you to cast your mind back to all the road trips you've had with that car of yours. Of all the miles you've racked up on the odometer, how many hours were spent listening to public radio? If mileage has taken its toll over the years, donate that car, truck, or RV to this station. You'll help everyone put more miles on their radio with hours and hours of thought-provoking news and information. Here's how.
Go to radioiq.org. Click the vehicle donation banner at the top of the page.
On the next Fresh Air, legal scholar Dorothy Roberts talks about her new book, The Mixed Marriage Project. It's based on her father's 5 decades of interviews with interracial couples dating back to the 1930s. As his biracial daughter, Roberts re-examines her father's work through an entirely new lens. Join us.
That's Fresh Air, Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. on Radio IQ.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WVUR Boston and your NPR station. And MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And the Museum of Science, Boston, where the whole family can discover indoor lightning storms, journey through the human body, and meet a 65-million-year-old triceratops. Visit MOS.org to learn more.
It's Here and Now. One powerful way to engage students is to have them build real-world products that help other people. Well, students in a technology class at a high school in suburban Denver are doing just that. It's called Empathy Engineering, and Colorado Public Radio's Jenny Brundeen paid a visit.
What you're about to hear from 17-year-old Bea Ingalls is music to a teacher's ears.
This is the coolest project I've ever worked on.
The project is redesigning the classic board game Codebreakers. The reason it's so cool, Ingalls says it's a real request from a client, a nonprofit that makes learning products for people who are blind and low vision.
It's like I get to work on something that is going to positively impact someone who needs it. Like, this isn't a fun project because my mom wanted a table. It's these kids can't have access to these resources because if any other company made this, it'd be $100.
Students are now waiting for feedback on the 10 prototypes they submitted to American Printing House. It's distributing them to schools of the blind nationwide for testing. Students will refine the design before a local manufacturer takes over.
Hey, it's on you now. So this is how it is in the real world. You're dumping in, you got to get a product out the door, divide and conquer. I'm here for you.
Teacher Brian Jernigan kicks off the class, and the juniors jump in. Today, they're building the prototype.
So picture this whole top circular area, and then just imagine if that was the shape on the top.
Okay. Would you also like to keep the circular bit at the bottom?
Yeah.
Jernigan became sold on injecting empathy into student projects years ago. The University of Colorado approached him with a federal grant to explore 3D printing to help visually impaired children read. The shift in his high school student designers was immediate.
All of a sudden, 100% of the kids giving me 100% of what they had. They all really tried because they're like, oh, my time matters. And that was the magic moment that I saw.
Fast forward more than a decade.
You have lasers, you have fine woodworking equipment, you've got 3D scanners, you have high-end computers that work.
Jernigan secured another grant to transform the old workshop into a modern-day design lab. But hey, these kids have a deadline.
All the original measurements and what our final measurements.
Let's get back to it. For those who don't know the game Codebreakers, someone guesses the order of a row of colored pegs. Student Andrew Hania explains for visually impaired children, color won't work.
So our biggest focus is just making everything tactile.
They're scaling up peg sizes, adding ridges, numbering rows. For a newcomer, the lab looks like controlled chaos. Everyone works on a piece of the puzzle. Massimo Ayes has an idea.
Bit and having triangle on this one since it has jagged edges.
You have 5 pegs. The other problem is I think you're overestimating how complicated I can make those.
They compromise.
I agree with just doing it off of texture like a cone or like a circle.
When something doesn't work, students pivot fast.
The way I designed it would actually not work incredibly well. It'd be really hard to identify to someone else.
American Printing House is excited the project is helping train future designers to build accessibility into their work.
So these kids, what they're getting is an opportunity to put something on their resume that's real, relevant, and will be for the rest of their lives.
But Codebreakers isn't the only accessible project students are working on. Still others are designing personal innovations.
So I'm designing a wooden satellite that will burn up on re-entry to the atmosphere.
It's an arm brace to ensure your arms can retain and or regain stability.
Is a clip that shortens the bottom of pants without having to hem them.
I'm trying to design a toy where the packaging is built in and isn't thrown away.
I'm making a climate conditions monitoring system to track conditions in pika habitats. And it's going to be like self-powered, and it has like camouflaged as a rock.
Here at the school, a speech therapist asked for a teaching aid for speech device users. Neo Crooks designed 96 color-coded core word blocks.
This is a product that definitely could turn into money. I don't care about that. The fact that it's going to make an impact for what could be nationwide, that's such a great thing, and that's just something you get to carry with you.
Jernigan says after teaching kids the basic skills, he steps back.
It's not easy. It's not clear. It's not black and white. It's not, hey, how do I get an A on the test? It's dirty. It's messy. It takes time. There's failures. There's setbacks. And, that's life. That's life, right? And then we pile a little bit of empathy on it, and it just, it fuels them, and it fuels me.
Before the kids file out, Jernigan asks for a one-word summary of the class.
Learn.
Innovative.
Innovative. Engaging.
Great.
Great. I love it. Fun.
For NPR News, I'm Jenny Brundine in Littleton, Colorado.
And today on our podcast, Here and Now Anytime, Indira asked the question, what was it like to be in the cast for Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show?
That's right. Andrew, atheist, shares the excitement of being an extra with superstars in his demanding role as Dancing Grass on Sunday. He's the biggest breakout star from a Super Bowl halftime show since Katy Perry's Left Shark.
So I'm looking at herenow.org. There's a picture of him, his face sticking out. How do you think the grass got out there? People ran out as grass. Oh, it's wonderful. Here Now Anytime. It delivers news and sometimes, rhythmic swaying as grass. Be the grass. He said, I have to be the grass. To your podcast app every afternoon. You can find it wherever you listen. Please do. Please do. Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Robin Young.
And I'm Indira Lakshmanan. It's Here and Now.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and from the Music Emporium, guitar sellers for more than 55 years, celebrating the enduring presence of music made on the front porch and center stage. You can learn more at themusicemporium.com.
Great businesses understand that reputation matters. That's why aligning with Radio IQ means more than exposure. It's about association. When your name is heard alongside award-winning journalism and thoughtful cultural coverage, you're making a statement about who you are and what you value. The right audiences notice. The right partnerships last. Explore corporate sponsorship by emailing WVTF corporate support at vt.edu.
You know when you're driving and you get to your destination, but the story you're listening to isn't finished? Well, take it with you. Download the Radio IQ app for your smartphone. It's free, easy to use, and will let you keep moving with the pace of the world.
You're listening to Radio IQ on WVTF Roanoke, WRIQ Charles City Richmond, WVTU Charlottesville, WVTW Charlottesville, WVTR Marion, WISE FM Wise, WQIQ Spotsylvania, WIQR Lexington, WEHC Emory, HD3 WURV Richmond, and on 92.5 Richmond and 94.9 Fredericksburg. Radio IQ, a listener-supported community service of Virginia Tech, on your smart speaker and online at radioiq.org.
Fresh Air with Terry Gross is underwritten by the Davis H. Elliott Company, providing engineering.
I would like to welcome Reverend Rob Lowe and invite him to come forward to the podium. Reverend Lau, I invite you to tell us about your church and to then lead us in prayer. When Reverend Lau is ready to lead us in prayer, I invite all who so desire to stand for the prayer and to remain standing to join the board in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Rob Lau. I'm the pastor of Bonsack United Methodist Church. I'm deeply honored to be with you and bring the greetings of the folks at Bonsack Church. We are a congregation that prides itself on being one of those places that we think is, in fact, like the kingdom of God, where everyone is welcome at that table. And before I went into United Methodist Ministry almost 20 years ago, I flew KC-135 tankers for the United States Air Force. 4 tours in support of operations Iraqi and enduring freedom. And so I know a little bit about service to the public, and yet I am amazed that in this day and this time that you would run for this office instead of away from this office. But I'm grateful for folks who are willing to step up and to lead. Tremendously grateful. So thank you. And I invite those who would care to join me to stand and let us pray together. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for who you are. For you are the one who formed the mountains and create the wind. You turn dawn into darkness and tread the high places of the earth. The Lord God Almighty is your name, says Amos. Your faithfulness endures to all generations. We see it outside in this very moment, from a frozen tundra for the last few weeks to 60 degrees out there. Thank you, God, for the way that you continually favor us and support us and give your grace to us. We pray your blessings upon the Board of Supervisors, those who serve them. We ask, oh God, that you would grant them wisdom in their discernment. We pray for all those who would address them today. God, I pray for respect and for shared purpose, that together, we, your children, might find our way into your intended future. For your blessings, your gifts, your wisdom, and for all who are gathered here this day, we give you thanks. In the name and to the glory of our great God, we pray. And all of the people said, amen. Amen. Thank you very much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon and welcome to our meeting for February the 10th, 2026. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Public hearings are held at 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV, Channel 3, and will be rebroadcast on Friday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisor meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisor meetings should contact the Clerk of Board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or place them on silent. Item A, opening ceremonies. Roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford.
Here.
Mrs. Hooker.
Here.
Mr. North.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mrs. Shepherd.
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda? Fellow board members?
No.
No.
Mr. Kaywood?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lubeck?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 changes to propose. First, it has been proposed that a resolution opposing proposed House Bills 1374 and 1377 be added to the board's agenda as item E2. And second, it has also been proposed to add as item E3 an emergency ordinance temporarily suspending the February 1st deadline for filing tax returns for tangible personal property just for this year, and extending the filing deadline to February 17th.
Are there any objections?
No.
None.
Seeing none, the agenda is amended as proposed. Item C, proclamations, resolutions, and recognitions and awards. Number 1, resolution recognizing Roanoke County snow removal team members during the January 24th and January 30th, 2026 winter storms. Richard Kaywood.
I can just come and kind of fill in back here. Afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Since I've been your county administrator, I've brought a number of employees forward, always as individuals, though, if my memory serves me correctly, because one of the things I really wanted to do in my job was to recognize individual accomplishment. But I'm going to make an exception today because I thought that there was a very large and important team standing behind me that was very deserving of recognition. Because one thing I do have a lot of background with is snow. I have worked in some form or fashion in snow removal operations of various sorts since 1996, if memory serves me correctly. And as you all know, both on January 24th and 30th, we had some significant winter weather events. And the first event was very deceptive because while it may have only measured 4 or 5 inches on the ground, had it been a light, fluffy snow, it probably would have been closer to 2 feet. So there was a lot of frozen water on the ground, which makes it very heavy, difficult to remove. And we have an outstanding team back here composed of members of both our Parks, Recreation, and Tourism staff, as well as our stormwater staff. And I just thought they did extraordinary work throughout the event, starting while the snow was still falling, that both kept our critical 24/7 operations, such as our fire stations running, our public safety center and that operation, and then also allowed us to reopen our county facilities very quickly, which was important to the public. But they really did a great job. I was actually here one day during the snow, and one of my challenges was to try to keep my vehicle out of the way because there were so many people here clearing out everything at once. I wasn't sure where to park. So we had fun with a couple of the guys that were here that spoke to me, chasing my vehicle around. And something else that I want to stress, one of the things we all take for granted when we work for local government is some of the hazards that our employees face. So we think of that first and foremost with our uniformed police officers, our uniformed fire and rescue personnel. On a number of occasions in the past, I've stressed some of the hazards that our solid waste folks face exposed to traffic. But in this particular case, I think I read an article the other day that said there was north of 12,000 broken bones during the snow event statewide that required different treatments and surgeries. Well, unfortunately, one of those happened to one of our folks, a member of our staff in Parks and Rec and Tourism, that kind of a little bit after the event seemed over to the general public was working out at the Explore Park, shoveling snow and fell on the ice. So I think sometimes some of the physical dangers that the folks behind me face in their jobs kind of can go overlooked, but they do a lot of things that expose themselves to a lot of hazard. But they were all here from the first flake that fell throughout the event. We worked 12-hour shifts for many days on end. We went through an enormous amount of ice melt. But unlike my time when I worked for the highway department, their work was not all in vehicles. A lot of it was with shovels. And that is a whole different task, as we all know. And they didn't just have one driveway to shovel or one piece of sidewalk to shovel. They did it across many, many, many facilities that we had. So I just want to commend their work. I thought it was worthy of formal recognition by the board, and I just don't have enough good things to say about the efforts of all those who are standing behind me.
Will the clerk please read the resolution?
Resolution recognizing Roanoke County snow removal team members during the January 24th and January 30th, 2026 winter storms. Whereas the Board of Supervisors hereby recommends Roanoke County snow removal team members for their exceptional dedication and professionalism during the recent winter storms, including working extended hours over 17 consecutive days to prepare for, respond to, and recover from severe winter weather conditions. Whereas through solid planning and early action, including extensive pre-treatment of parking lots, staff helped reduce hazardous conditions before the first snowfall, setting the foundation for a safe and effective response. And whereas staff worked tirelessly to clear snow and later remove accumulated snow piles, often under challenging and hazardous conditions, demonstrating a strong commitment to public safety and service continuity. And whereas their efforts ensured that Roanoke County's 24/7, 365 operations staff, including police officers, fire and rescue personnel, and emergency communications officers were able to access county facilities quickly and safely, allowing emergency and public safety services to remain fully operational throughout the storm. And whereas because of this work, county buildings were able to reopen efficiently, enabling employees and citizens to safely access essential services such as libraries, recreation facilities, and other public spaces once the storm had passed. And whereas the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia does hereby extend its sincere appreciation to the following staff members from Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department and staff members from Development Services Stormwater Drainage Division: Robert Arno, Braden Ashby, Michael Blair, Tabby Blaylock, Steve Brammer, Austin Brookman, Morgan Edwards, Chris Fireball, Desmond Gallagher, Eddie Goot, Keith Hill, David Jordan, Gerald Landis, Dylan Marin, Chris McVeigh, Hunter Metter, Jerome Robertson, Scott Shesky, Emmett Smith, Trent Terry, Jeff Willard, Eric Vest, Dalton Hughes, Jimmy Fralin, DJ Myers, Jason Rakes, Jimmy Sutphin, and Nathan Wimmer. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors formally recognizes and thanks county staff for their outstanding service, commitment to safety, and unwavering support of county operations during this weather event.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Do any of my fellow board members want to share any additional comments? But we'll start from the right
Okay,
and go
we'll
work
start
our
on-
way down.
Okay. Well, Richard, winter's not over yet. And so you might have this whole crew back here again. And I promise not to embarrass Hunter and point him out, but good to see you, Hunter. And you thought you were signed on for stormwater, but there you go. Wintertime shows up and it happens. So thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot of snow. It is still on the ground, so we still have to deal with it everywhere. But thank y'all so much, especially, working those long hours. That's tough and in the cold conditions. So thank you.
So I just want to say thank you, because the very thing that I personally, and I know many of us were trying to avoid, was the very thing that you were going out in. It looked unsafe out there. I didn't really want to go down some of the hills or go on that ice, and you all did. And you did it really to help the overall safety of the county so that we could eventually reopen. And we truly appreciate your effort and your work in that. The very thing I didn't want to do is what you were doing, so thank you very much. And it wasn't just some fluffy snow, this event. It was heavy, it was ice. I know for many of us, we still have ice along the edges of our driveway. It's not going to go anywhere for a while. It was tough conditions. Thank you. We appreciate your work.
I worked on the railroad. While I didn't always get out there when the weather was bad, I can tell you one thing, that we depend on the operations department there to make that railroad keep moving, even when there's bad weather. So if you think the mail people work through the rain and snow, I got news for you. You all work as hard as they do, if not more so, and I'm proud of everything you did. But no good deed goes unpunished, and this may have jinxed Richard, because while it's 60 degrees today, which is a good sign, the groundhog did see his shadow, and he went back in for 6 more weeks. So we've had some of the worst snowstorms around here in March, if I remember correctly, in the year of 1996, I believe it was. We had a couple, and March hadn't quite arrived yet. So enjoy the break that you got. But one of the biggest things that was so difficult about this storm was that it reminded me of the 1960s, when you'd have the ice and it would stay down for 2 or 3 weeks. And it was hard to get up. So that's what made this so difficult, both for you folks, but also for VDOT as well. I've never had so many phone calls from people saying, when am I going to get my mail? Well, that's not a function of the county. When am I going to get my streets plowed? Well, VDOT's working on that. But I never heard anyone say anything bad about the work you all did to keep the county facilities going, both here and at the schools and libraries and so forth. So that's good, because you did a good job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. What you guys did was tough, and it's challenging. And a lot of it is unrecognized, and I'm glad Mr. Kaywood has brought you all here so that we can recognize you, because a lot of your work is sort of behind the scenes and unsung, and everybody expects it to be done until it's not, and you did it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I heard recently that some of you worked 17 or 18 days straight without a day off during this period. And I know that you must have been exhausted, and I know that you probably wanted to call in and say, I'm not coming. So thank you for all of the hard work that you did. And again, like Martha said, that's obviously not something that she or I would want to be doing by any stretch. But you all were there, you continued to show up, you worked very hard. And our parking lots looked great. I was in several of them. So thank you again, and we appreciate it and hope that we don't have any more snow and that you all don't have to do another 18 days straight. So thank you for that. And would any staff like to comment?
I am. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and board members. Just wanted to have a couple words to talk about our drainage crew. They don't get recognized that much, and thank you for recognizing them today. The reason for my talk today is to say that they really do above and beyond the call of duties. See, when it's storm, whether it's rain or snow, these guys are out in the heat or the cold. When this snow came down, when they were asked to help, they went out and pushed snow out of the parking lot of very critical facilities that we do. But that's not the only thing they do. When it rains, before and after any storm, they have to go to any prone areas that we know that it is areas prone for flooding. They check for any kind of debris or anything needs to be moved before and after. And because of their work, we are safe and we are also have good quality of living in the community. And I wanted personally to thank them in front of you and appreciate their work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Got your chance. Be on TV.
Hunter?
Morgan, where are you? You want to say something? You're close to the microphone.
Y'all said it the best, so thank y'all for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, if you would like to move up front with the board members to take a picture, that would be great. I think so. We're going to be short.
Did Richard get his driveway cleaned by these guys?
I'll have to ask him.
No, he didn't, I know.
We do appreciate you all. Thank you.
We're definitely going to need some people up front.
You know
We
what?
could do 2 rows.
Yeah.
I don't think I can convince any of y'all to do the sorority squad.
Stand on our check.
I know.
Okay.
Cheetos.
Snow, yeah.
Snow.
Say stormwater.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, let's keep it in the fairway. I heard about last Saturday night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item D, briefing. 1, briefing to discuss with the Board of Supervisors the real estate assessment process. Richard K. Wood, County Administrator.
All right, give just a second to get the
Here's the one on the
screens
house
going
bill,
here.
And then here's the one on the,
All right, well, good afternoon, again, Madam Chair, members of the board. One of the things that I know the board has an interest in is trying to clearly convey to the public a variety of things that we do. And as a citizen myself, one of the things that, of course, happens every year is we send you a notice of your reassessment for your home, and of course, that ultimately comes with a tax bill. And I think as everybody's aware, we've seen a lot of appreciation in home values. So the question has been raised, why does this all happen, and how are those numbers arrived at? So sitting behind me is our CFO, Lori Gearhart, and Ken Fay, our Director of Real Estate Evaluation. They're going to be with me if there's any questions that the board should have at the end of the presentation that I'm unable to answer. But one of the reasons I wanted to give this presentation is the goal here today is to communicate something that's very complex to a lay audience, and I figure if I'm an engineer and I can figure this out and understand it, I think everybody else will, because this is not out of my arena either. So I just want to talk through how the process works, how we arrive at real estate values, and then how that ultimately translates into billing, and then how, as a county, we have tried to help our citizens with some of the concerns that this creates. So at the very beginning, and this is more of a general thing, we do have, of course, most of our residents grew up in Virginia, but we certainly have people from other states where things were done differently. But Virginia is what is known as a Dillon rule state, meaning that local governments can only do things in such a manner as explicitly permitted by the General Assembly, and not the other way around. So ultimately in Virginia, the General Assembly decides what form of taxes local governments can use, and then some of those taxes are limited in their amount by the Commonwealth. And what this means is that, again, for us, the number one source of revenue is going to be from real estate tax. Another thing that's different in Virginia compared to many of our neighbors to the south is we do not have local direct taxing by school boards. So in many states, I know my brother lives in Texas, he receives tax bills from any number of entities. So for example, they get a separate school tax bill. That does not happen in Virginia. So for us, it's all done by the locality at the local level. And then in those states that rely less on real estate or property taxes, they tend to have other forms of local taxes that are higher. So they may have a higher sales tax, they have other, sometimes local income taxes are especially popular in the Northeast. So, things have a cost across the country. They're just collected in different ways in different states. When you look at the county budget, another common question we get is, well, where's all the money go? So first and foremost, the revenues we collect locally predominantly go to two places, our schools and our public safety operation, which includes things like the police department, fire department, our 911 operations, and then much lesser amounts go to our other functions, but again, the lion's share go to two places, public safety and schools. With respects to assessments, Virginia law requires that we endeavor to assess real estate at 100% of the market value. That was actually a change that's, goes back a couple decades. It used to be assessments were done at lower valuations with higher tax rates, but Virginia changed the code, I believe back in the 80s, to require this to happen at 100% fair market value. We have over 46,000 parcels that we have to assess every year. We at the county choose to do that with in-house staff. So we employ appraisers who are very familiar with the county and the neighborhoods. And that's important because in many cases, these employees will work for us for many years, are very familiar with neighborhood by neighborhood. And when I use the term neighborhood, I'll use the neighborhood in which I live, for example. To me, it's one neighborhood, but for our real estate assessment office, that's broken into multiple smaller neighborhoods based on date of construction. So I think mine is 3 or 4 phases when you look at it on the real estate assessment side of the books. They go from sort of the oldest original part of the neighborhood to the most recent construction. So often these neighborhoods are subsets of larger neighborhoods that are a little bit smaller. And then when we think about an individual home, the real estate assessment office doesn't determine the value of homes. The real estate market determines the value of homes. So ultimately, a home's value is set by its worth in the marketplace. And so for an individual's assessment, the thing that has the most direct effect on that assessment are sales of neighboring homes. So homes that sell within your neighborhood or homes that sell in neighborhoods that are very similar to ours. And that's another important thing to remember. So my neighborhood is fairly small. And there's been periods that sometimes span a number of years where there's no sales that happen in the neighborhood. My assessment will continue to change because it's also influenced by other similar neighborhoods that are nearby that have had sales. And so those comparable home sales are used to help assess the value of my home as well. Then other things are looked at, such as significant projects that you might do. A common example in Roanoke is finishing a basement, adding a deck, or other home improvements that would affect the market value of the home. Here in Roanoke County, with our GIS system, every several years, we update the imagery. So certain things like, for example, the addition of a deck, you can see in the imagery if somebody, for example, added a driveway or widened a driveway substantially or something that would affect value. You can see things like that in the photography. Another very important source of information are real estate listings. So in today's world, when somebody lists a house, there's extensive photography. It's online. You can kind of see if somebody's, for example, finished a basement. You can take a look at it. And these are how those values are determined. But the one nice thing about the real estate valuation process that's different than some other aspects of our local government operation is we can go out and check the results in the real world, right? So houses sell all the time. We have a value on every house. In real time, we can look to see what our score was, so to speak. So how did our valuation compare to what the market said the value was? And we can look at that statistically across the county. So as I mentioned earlier, the target is 100%. Currently, the median value that we see as of January 1st of each year compared to actual sales, we're sitting right around 94% as a county. So we're actually a little below the target. And that's not going to be correct for each individual house because, as we all know, there's a lot of factors that affect an individual sale. I'm looking at Tammy, who is in the real estate business, but for example, if someone got divorced and lost their job and had to move quickly, that house may transact at a lower price versus someone who maybe has another place they'd already like to move, but they're going to be very patient and let that house stay on the market as long as it takes to get the price they want. So you get sometimes results on both sides of the value we have, but again, we can look at this in aggregate. And then we also have some measures that look at how fair we are to different types of neighborhoods across the county. So when you look at these overall results, and then there's some national standards that are applied. So again, the target is really 100% value, but the acceptable range is normally looked at to be between 91% and 105%. Again, we're sitting right at 94, so we're very much in the middle of those two numbers, a little bit to the low side. There's something called coefficient of dispersion, and this just how tight around that 94 are our numbers. And again, the acceptable range is between 5 and 15%. Again, we are very much in that range. And then the last one, and I think this was a very important one where we're almost perfect, something called price-related differential. And all this is a measure of, among all houses, how do our values for more expensive and less expensive homes compare to each other? Meaning, if a $1 million house is sold or a $200,000 house is sold, how likely is our number to be accurate when you compare those two, types of homes? And the answer is there's no difference. In other words, because 1.007 is almost perfectly one, meaning our accuracy is unchanged by the price of the house, meaning that it's fair across all different types of houses. Because one problem that can happen, and sometimes happens in other communities, is you might see, for example, a high degree of accuracy for more moderately priced homes that transact more often, but then you're way off when it comes to expensive houses, which could, in theory, give those people a big break on their taxes. If their assessments were, they were 80%, everybody else is 94, well, that's not very fair. So this last measure looks at that, and we perform extremely well. And each year, we update this information for the board, so we're constantly looking at what the actual real estate market is telling us versus how we are actually assessing homes. So we have a very statistical scoreboard that goes on throughout the year. However, there is a process if an individual does think that their assessment is incorrect, which can happen for a variety of reasons. So the first thing is kind of a common sense approach that our staff will ask if you inquire of them as well, which is, if you were going to list your house today, what would you ask for it and what would you be willing to sell it for? If our number is less than that, it's very unlikely that it is too high, because that is your sense of the market is probably accurate because you've seen your neighbors' houses sell. Most of our homeowners have a pretty good idea of what their house is likely to sell for if they were to sell it. Has there been changes around you that would affect that value? Again, you did a project, you finished your basement, you added a deck. or has something in your neighborhood changed that would likely affect the value of your home. So those are things that you might want to consider. And, perhaps, in some neighborhoods, maybe there's been some new additions to the neighborhood and some amenities have been added. In theory, it could be something negative that might negatively affect the value of the home. Again, we will see all that in the market, and that could ultimately have an influence on your assessment. Again, sales. But there are both formal and informal processes you can go through. Certainly, you're always free to call our staff, and they're very helpful with walking through the basis on which they assessed your value. And then there's a more formal process that's required by the Code of Virginia called the Board of Equalization. And I won't go through every detail on this slide, but this gives a way that you can formally present evidence that if you feel there's something incorrect about your assessed value of your property. Again, we have over 46,000 parcels that we assess. Using this formal process, there were 9 cases last year, 6 of which resulted in a change in valuation. So relative to the very large number, these are very small. There are some requirements for who is on the Board of Equalization. And again, we do have staff that can explain more about that. But really what this gets down to and what our residents are concerned about is they see their tax bill and they want to know, again, we talked about where the money goes, but one of the strong mandates that I have from the board, and we're in the budget process now, is that each year when we look at our budget, we look for opportunities to make adjustments to tax rates. So we've consistently lowered the tax rate since I've been here, or at least in this job, from $1.09 per hundred to down to $1.03. And prior to this, they had not been adjusted since 2006. So we look at the tax rate, and we consider that each year. Obviously, we've been through a period of very high inflation. It's affected both the county and our homeowners, which I think has distorted some of the numbers that we see. But that's one mechanism. One option that the board does not have is it couldn't tell staff to, well, we just want to assess at 80% value, so lower the assessment, right? So the Virginia Code doesn't allow that. What we can do is look at our tax rate and look at where our money goes. This is a little bit of a complicated graph. I won't try to go through it in great detail, but you all have seen this or similar graphs before. But historically, our real estate assessment would show growth in home values very close to inflation. They were almost in lockstep. And if you look at the first few years on the graph back in 16 through 18, the real estate rises in value were just slightly below inflation. In other words, you were negative 0.06, negative 0.1. So we were basically in lockstep with inflation. A little bit of bump up right when COVID happened. But then something that really surprised me when I saw the graph is that in fiscal years 21 and 22, even though home values rose rapidly, we actually underperformed inflation with the change in real estate prices versus general prices. Then you see a very large swing, and I think we saw this nationwide, again, coming out of COVID with very strong housing demand. We continued to lower rates, but if you look at where this is projected off the end of the graph, it's very clear that these things are coming back into line again, where the very likely future that this graph shows you is that in the near future, at our new lower tax rates, and especially if there's additional adjustments made, we will very soon be back in a world where it looks like changes in real estate value will much more closely track inflation again. So that's definitely where all the trend lines are headed. Another thing that we hear sometimes from citizens is they would like to just pay the same amount every year. And there's a couple of challenges that go with that. First, at a very fundamental level, this would be unfair. And the reason it would be unfair is if my house value doesn't rise in the marketplace, say as high as one of your values, all of a sudden you're getting a discount on your tax rate. So if your house doubles in value and my house only goes up 20%, but we both had our bills fixed, the person with the rapidly appreciating real estate is kind of getting a free ride. On the other hand, if my house value rises very slowly in that fixed bill environment, I could be, again, paying more if you look at it from the other direction. So that would kind of be unfair. The other challenges we create for the county is we experience inflation just like everybody else. So if real estate being about 3/4 of our budget, if that number was flat, we would have to cut our operations essentially at the rate of inflation every year. So if inflation was 3%, we'd have to reduce our costs by 3% to come back to even. And that would mean things like police officers, what we give to schools, fire and rescue, et cetera. So that's a challenge we have. And again, you all look at things like that each year during the budget process. And the other thing that we have to contend with that we'll look at more formally at the next board meeting, and we shared with the board previously, is some of our revenue sources are underperforming. So sales tax, for example, those collections have been lower than expected. We are not going to meet our target in the current year, and that's going to strongly diminish our expectation for next year. So again, that all goes into the same pot to pay for the services that our citizens would like to see. And so then finally, kind of what's the answer to the whole challenge? For one, I think all of us would hope that the gyrations in the real estate market that kind of have their origin back in COVID have kind of run their course and things start to get into a more normal pattern. That would certainly make life easier for all of us. The board does have a housing study underway because it's clear there's a strong demand for folks to live in both the Roanoke Valley, but specifically Roanoke County. So the board can look at strategies we may want to employ to increase the availability of housing, which should have some moderating effect on prices. We do have a work session on this topic planned for each next board meeting. Again, we can look at the real estate tax rate. We're always looking at operational efficiencies and things we can do to save cost. We could choose to just cut services, right? You know, we can do less things at a lower price. So oftentimes folks will point to some of our neighbors and say, well, the tax rate is lower over here, but then there are services we provide that those localities don't provide that all have a price. So for example, we're one of the few counties in the state that does a full-service solid waste collection operation that is not inexpensive. We don't have to do that. We choose to do that, but it does have a price, and you could convert the price of that directly into real estate tax and make that change. But again, you know, that's something you all have to consider is what is the value of the services you get, and as individual citizens, are you better off, you know, having one operation that does solid waste that I would argue is very efficient, or is it better for residents to pay for that individually and live with what comes out of that? Those are choices that exist across the Commonwealth. Obviously, economic development is an important part of this, and it's something I've very much focused on. So when we bring investment, you know, through companies that create new jobs, that does, all things being equal, help with the tax base. So again, taxes we receive from one source, we don't have to charge from another. So one really good example in an area that's performed extremely well for the county has been meals tax revenue. And so when you see, you know, particularly around the Tanglewood area, some new restaurants in the market that have done very well, well, that helps offset some of the other revenue sources. So to the extent that we have more things like that, that helps some. And then the last thing I'll say, just as a bullet, before seeing what questions you may have, and this is where it's a good news, bad news story. So that strong demand for real estate in the county, it does create a burden on our citizens, particularly those folks who may have more limited means or be on a fixed income. But home equity is also the number one source of wealth in the U.S. for individuals. And so that appreciated value is a value to people. The challenge we have is how do we navigate that when folks don't want to move? They can't extract that value by moving. And again, to some extent, we're a victim of our own success. And I'll just close with one last little story. But I've watched this. I've lived in my house since 2004. And when I bought that house, I had most recently come from the Richmond area, even though I kind of grew up in more rural Virginia. And I was the oddity because I was not from Roanoke. I was an outsider. I came from Richmond. I was 3 hours away. Now when a house goes on the market in my neighborhood, I see tags from Georgia, Florida, New York, California. The odd thing now in my neighborhood would be somebody that was from Virginia bought the house. So we are getting large numbers of people who are choosing to make a home in the county, which is helping to offset, the county as a whole has a very low birth rate. We do have an aging population. But as houses go for sale, they're very likely to be bought by people from outside of our region. That's a good problem to have, but it's also a challenge that we have. So I think this all fits together with, again, long-term, what do we do with housing? How do we make it more attractive to create more supply? But also, what do we do in our budget process? So, but the bottom line with all this is if any individual has a question about the basis of their assessment. Ken Fay and his team are happy to answer those questions, show you the data they relied on to make that best estimate of your value. Again, that's the number we publish January 1st of each year. But unlike a lot of other things, we do get to constantly check that value. So if there's a significant deviation from the market, we find it, we correct it, and that's why we end up with a not quite perfect score, but a near perfect score on the scorecard. So I think that the challenges we have don't lie with the assessment process. They really are more strategic than that, and bigger picture things that we look at with tax rates and supply, not with the numbers that we generate through staff. So with that, staff and I would be happy to take any questions or comments that you may have.
Do any of my fellow board members wish to comment?
Yes. One thing you didn't mention, I don't think you did mention, but you were pretty thorough and everything, so I'll give you a 99.9.
I was room for improvement.
Today in the newspaper, and I'm not sure if it was in Cardinal News yet, probably will be. I didn't get my Cardinal News till late today, but there was the effective tax rate statement. And if folks haven't seen that don't get the newspaper, what it did this year was add inflation to the effective tax rate of 97 cents, which gives you the same revenue pretty much as last year, and it shows almost $1. So effective tax rate's 99.6, and I don't know why we showed it as 99.6, because you can't charge anyone 99.6. Everything has to be rounded up. So that's something to consider for clarification next year. But it's $1 compared to our $1.03, which means we're almost perfect. And the reason we're not there yet is because we haven't finished the budget process this year, and because we're seeing some weakness in sales tax revenues, we're seeing some weaknesses in other taxes as well. Will we do anything on the real estate this year? We don't know. But one thing that we do that is not on the notice we send out, because we tell the public everything but some good news, and we have to then tell them this offline on phone calls, is we've cut the real estate rate that you did mention 6 cents. No board's done this in 16 years when we first did it 3 years ago. And if you take your assessment and you divide the value by 100 and multiply that number times 6 cents, that's how much money we avoided billing you this year. And that's where the tax reduction comes into play. So in my case, it was $275 on top of a $350 assessment increase. So I don't know about you all, but $275 is a good chunk of money that you can do some things with in many ways. So thank you for that presentation. And I do hope folks at home see this and watch it as this repeats on for the next week or so. I would like to make a request that Amy or somebody get a copy and share it online with the public on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but also get copies to us in case we need to share them with anyone that calls and has a question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Richard, thanks so much for explaining this a little more detail. Ken, you did a good job when you presented it to us. I think this just gives the public a little more information. This chart that you showed, and Ken will appreciate this, but if you go back to like 2005 or 6, we're in the negative. We've had to recover. It took us until 2017, and you guys never said anything about that, but I mean, we took a big hit prior to 2016 when that chart started. So you might want to include that timeline to where it's down under, the baseline. But, we had to tighten our belts and our budgets and all that during that time frame. So it goes both ways in terms of us, working our budget. We have the constituents in mind. It's again, just thank you for giving us a little more detail for the public to see that today.
Just one quick comment regarding my appreciation, Richard, for sharing this information, and for Ken Fay and his team for doing a fabulous job. And it is not anything that we take lightly or that is easy to explain sometimes to the public. And so we appreciate your extra commentary today, just in helping the public understand and be more transparent about these are the cards we're dealt. This is what we can do. This is what we're choosing to do. These are the services that we offer with that money. And it's, Roanoke County still is a great place to live. So thank you very much.
Well, I guess I will be the long speaker today.
No way.
Well, we are swimming in my pool. So, first of all, I served on the Board of Equalization prior to my stint here as the Board of Supervisors. And I am very familiar with the process of the tax assessments and Ken Fay's department and the job that they do. And they do a fantastic job. I think I served 3 years on that, looking at the folks that some would come in with disputes and things like that. And more often than not, we were right on point with what their assessment was. One of the items that I ask myself when I get my tax bill, of course, nobody likes a bill. We all like to keep our money in our pocket, and I understand that. However, when we look at what the tax money goes to, the largest thing is the education, and those kids are our future, so I don't feel like we can take that away. The next largest is our public safety, and to be quite honest with you, if I need Chief Poindexter to show up really quickly, I want him to be able to send someone out there. And if I need the fire and rescue, I would like Travis to be able to send out one of his teams to take care of me. Because if they don't show up, then I may not need to worry about what my tax assessment is. It may be just too late. So those are items I definitely would not want to give up. And actually asking my mom which one she would like to give up out of curiosity. And she said, well, if I had to give one up, that would be trash service, but never mind, I'll just pay my taxes. So, I can't imagine anyone wanting to give up any of those items, and I know we all don't want to have to pay it, but I want to thank Ken and them for the hard job that they do, the work, and Richard, thank you for putting this all together so that the public can see and they can actually know where their money is going to, and that it's not just being spent frivolously on a lot of things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item E, new business. One, resolution authorizing the use of competitive negotiation in the procurement of professional services for the redevelopment of the Hollins Fire Station pursuant to the Public-Private Educational Facilities and Infrastructure Act of 2002. Peter Lubeck, County Attorney.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. The board recently accepted an unsolicited proposal that was made pursuant to the Public-Private Education Facilities and Infrastructure Act, which we call the PPEA. This proposal was to redevelop the Hollins Fire Station. And after receiving this proposal, the county solicited competing proposals for this project, which is consistent with the requirements of the Act and with the county's adopted PPEA guidelines. No competing proposals were received. At this time, which is during the initial review of the project, the board must determine the procedures that staff will use in procuring the services for the project. In many situations, the procedure that is used is competitive sealed bidding, However, because this proposal predominantly involves professional services, which are defined by the Code of Virginia, it would be proper and lawful to use the procurement process of competitive negotiation for these professional services. And staff recommends the adoption of the resolution that is before you today, which authorizes the use of competitive negotiation and the procurement of the professional services pursuant to the procedures of the PPEA for the redevelopment of the Hollins Fire Station. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lubeck?
Yeah, one question. Just for the record and for the public, this is similar to what we did for the Bonsack Station 12, if I'm not mistaken.
That's exactly right.
Okay, and that ended up saving a bit of money.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Madam Chair, I move the motion E1 to adopt the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item 2, resolution in opposition to 1 House Bill 1374, which would amend Title 23.1 of the Code of Virginia to effectuate the dissolution of the Board of Visitors of the Virginia Military Institute and place governance of the Virginia Military Institute under the Board of Visitors of Virginia State University. And 2, House Bill 1377, which would create a task force to examine the higher education at the Virginia Military Institute and assess whether other public institutions could replace the role of the Virginia Military Institute. Peter Lubeck?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. And this is a matter which came to the board's attention during this last week, and at the board's direction, I have prepared this resolution, which does express your opposition to both of these bills. And as is reflected in the title, which was just read by Madam Chair, for this year's session of the General Assembly, 2 bills have been filed which have the potential to adversely affect the governance and operation of the Virginia Military Institute. And I will briefly summarize both of these bills. House Bill 1374 does propose to dissolve the Board of Visitors of VMI and place VMI under the governance of the Board of Visitors of the Virginia State University. And House Bill 1377 proposes to create a task force to examine aspects of the cultural and educational experience at VMI and to assess whether other public institutions could replace the role of VMI. And again, at the board's direction, I have prepared this resolution which expresses your position that VMI is a treasured institution of the Commonwealth, that it is properly governed by its own Board of Visitors, and urging the General Assembly not to enact these bills.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lubeck? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Madam Chair, I'd like to adopt this resolution. Motion to approve.
I will second it.
Second.
Is there a discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes, go
Mrs.
Navy.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
I'm sorry?
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Absolutely, yes. Item 3, emergency ordinance temporarily suspending the February 1st deadline for filing of tax returns for tangible personal property as set forth in Section 2116 of the Roanoke County Code and extending the filing deadline for tax year 2026 only to February the 17th. Jason Peters, Roanoke County Commissioner of Revenue.
Hello.
Hello.
Madam Chair and members of the board. As we've already discussed here today, we had a big snow event. And we have noticed in the commissioner's office that a lot of folks, we're having trouble getting things to our office on time. I think it's an issue with mail and people not being able to get the mail service, not be able to get to their homes and some of the businesses. So in meeting with Peter Lubeck earlier, I am requesting that we do a temporary suspension of the February 1st deadline that is outlined in our county code, or our county ordinances, section 2116, that says that all tax returns for the tangible personal property must be turned in by February 1st, and extending that to next Tuesday, February the 17th. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Peters?
So when I handed mine in on February the 1st, I wasn't late.
You were not?
Okay.
And just a little more insight. So what we've noticed is a lot of our businesses that have never been late. One that I looked at yesterday, they signed their form on January 26th. It wasn't postmarked till February 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a lot of that, and just given the significance of the snowstorm, trying to be a good, business-friendly community, we feel like this is the right thing to do.
Do you find a lot of the information is dropped off in the drop boxes that we have around the county?
Some, but most of it is mailed in.
Mailed in, the mail. Mail's problematic these days, even when it's good weather.
I wasn't gonna bring that up.
Well, people fussed at us because of the snow. Can I get my mail? But like, I can't get any mail neither.
Yeah, we spoke to someone earlier that said that they've been 8 days without mail.
Yeah, that's right.
So-
Sure were.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency ordinance upon affirmative vote of 4/5 of the members of the board?
I move the motion.
Is there a
Second.
second? Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item F, thank you. First reading of ordinances. 1, ordinance authorizing the temporary relocation of the Hollins District Precinct 206 polling place pursuant to the Virginia Code Section 24.2-306 and 24.2-307 and 24.2-310. Anna Clater, Registrar, first reading and request for second reading.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I am here today to ask you to consider an ordinance that would temporarily relocate the polling place for one of our precincts in the Hollins Magisterial District. Precinct 206 Hollins currently votes at the Hollins Library, which is at 6624 Peters Creek Road. But the Hollins Library is scheduled to undergo construction beginning this spring and lasting well into 2027. For that reason, we'd like to temporarily relocate the polling place to North Roanoke Baptist Church, which is just down the street at 6402 Peters Creek Road. The chairman of our electoral board and I have both spoken with Pastor Daniel Palmer, and his church has graciously agreed to serve as the temporary polling location during the period of construction. So once approved, we would plan to notify all affected voters of their new temporary polling place. And then once renovations are complete, we would do the same thing, notifying them that Hollins Library is back open, and we'd send them to a new and improved Hollins Library to vote on Election Day. So that's all I have. I will answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Clater?
So just a comment, I want to thank the folks in North Roanoke Baptist Church and Reverend Palmer for his ability to work with the county so well, especially with the sheriff's graduations, and now helping us out here in the Hollins District, as we need another place for maybe for a year and 3 months. Anyway, thank you for your work and making this happen. Appreciate
Sure
it.
thing. Thank you.
Anna and Peter, as I understand it, whenever the construction work and renovation work is completed, we'll have to come back again and adopt another ordinance. So we can't do an automatic in this ordinance to accomplish both purposes. Am I?
We've done it before.
And I think we have done it before, or we have done a temporary, but we can certainly look at that again and bring it before the board if we need to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I know it's going to be confusing to citizens.
Yeah. We did at least say when the construction's complete. Now, what we didn't do was put the date on there, and I think George indicated it might be July 1st of 2027, but
So long as it's open at least 90 days before
Before the next election.
the November election, we're good to move it back.
yeah, that's right.
But I think we did this at Cave Spring High School, and we did it at Byrd, so
Yes,
we'll see.
appreciate it.
Right.
Ms. Clater, I don't think he's trying to tell you he doesn't want you to come back again. We always like to see your smiling
Oh,
face.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance and schedule a second reading for February 24th, 2026.
Second.
Are there any discussions on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Item G, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, That item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Does any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion? Is there a motion to adopt all matters on the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Item H, citizens' comments and communications. This time has been set aside for the Roanoke County citizens, county property owners, and county business owners to address the board on matters of interest or concern. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, this agenda item is limited to a duration of 30 minutes. Each individual speaker shall be afforded 3 minutes to speak. Are there any citizens wanting to address the board that have not submitted a form? If any citizens have submitted a form to speak, we will call you now. We appreciate all who have come to address the board today. When your name is called, please come forward and state your name and address prior to sharing your comments. As previously noted, each person is permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes. At the front of the podium is a light system that tells you how much time you have remaining. When the light changes from green to yellow, please share any concluding remarks. When the light changes from yellow to red, your time has ended. While the board desires to hear from all who desire to speak, we ask that our speakers refrain from repeating comments already made by others. The first person I've got is Megan Kupka.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors, Madam Chair. I'm here to speak regarding item number G6 in the meeting agenda. I am a Roanoke County native. I went to Mount Pleasant, William Byrd Middle, William Byrd High, went to Rockingham United Methodist Church, and graduated with honors. This county and this community's values shaped the adult I am today. Unfortunately for my property taxes, the home I bought a few years ago sits just inside the city line. But I will always identify as a Roanoke County, not city, resident. And as such, let me give you my opinion on item number G6. This proposal is just the latest in a string of experiments across localities in this area trying to exclude or severely curtail the presence of abortion clinics by using zoning laws. There is no evidence that an abortion clinic needs to be zoned differently than any other outpatient clinic or hospital. I could tell you about how 55 to 59% of women who seek abortions are already mothers, and how that statistic has remained stable for years. I could tell you how women who obtain an abortion often have children later when they are better able to support them. And I could tell you about women who have died in places with murky legality around or no access to abortion. I could tell you about my own experience, but luckily I didn't have to make that choice. But it did solidify to me that that choice rests with the woman. Not a board of supervisors, not a planning commission, not an attorney. Using an underhanded tactic to limit that choice is shameful. And if I can't get your attention with my rights as a human being to determine my future, if I can't get your attention with the experiences of women living in this area, let me get your attention by your purse strings and your legal standing. As mentioned before, Virginia is a Dillon Rule state. Counties and cities only have powers explicitly granted to them by the Commonwealth. You are walking into a gray area of the law. Yes, localities have the authority when it comes to land use and zoning, but you don't have the authority to regulate medical services. This proposition singles out abortion clinics based on the medical services they provide. On paper, this is about zoning. In practice, this locality would be trying to regulate the presence of medical services. Instead of letting the people of Roanoke County vote on this, where it would likely meet greater opposition, this board and this attorney are pulling backdoor levers to let a handful of people impose their religious or other views on tens of thousands of women. You have a financial obligation to the taxpayers of this county. Are you willing to pay taxpayer money into an inevitable legal battle, one that was created here? The wise choice, in my opinion, of this board is to end this here and now, rescind the approval of the proposal, or halt the study. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item I, reports. 1, unappropriated balance, board contingency and capital reserves report, and 2, outstanding debt report. Is there a motion to receive and file the reports that have been included with the agenda under item I?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. J, reports and inquiries of board members. Mr. Mahoney?
Madam Chair, I have 3 items. My first item is on Monday, February 2nd, I had the opportunity to attend a community meeting that was held at South County Library. It appears that the Federal Emergency Management folks are putting out some new floodplain maps, and we had 3 different community meetings spread around the county. I was there for about an hour, 15 minutes, and unfortunately no citizens were there. We had staff and county engineers, and we had the maps, and as I understand the process, and maybe Mr. Kaywood could correct me, the community process, opportunity for citizens to comment, and then sometime this summer, those maps would be submitted for some board action, for formal approval, to incorporate them into our system? Is that the plan? Or is that solely done by the federal government and that automatically applies to us, regardless of what the comments are?
That's a level of detail I'll check and shoot you guys back a note. I'm not sure who goes first, us or the feds on that. I'll check.
But anyway, there was unfortunately no citizens. And while it may be minimal impacts on the county, there are impacts on citizens and there are impacts on properties in the county. And some folks may get some unfortunate surprises with the new maps. The second item I want to just brief the board on, several of us were in Richmond last Thursday and Friday. In addition to attending Legislative Day with the Virginia Association of Counties, I also had the opportunity to serve on the board of directors of the Virginia Association of Counties Group Self-Insurance Risk Pool. That provides self-insurance for us, for Roanoke County, in terms of general liability, automotive liability, workers' compensation, that whole world. And I want to report that our meetings on February 5th and 6th is our annual meeting, our organizational meeting. And the good news is we had our independent audit, and the independent audit was done by Harris, Hardy, and Johnstone PC from Richmond. We got a clean audit. We're in good shape money-wise, and I just want to recommend, tell the board, Bay Corp is strong. It was created back in 1993, and I think we got about 579 members. That includes counties, cities, towns, authorities, airport commissions. So we're doing well, fortunately, and we have some good leadership there. My final point is just to remind everybody, under item I, we've clicked up to about $265 million in debt. $171 million of that is for Roanoke County Public Schools. Just credit card keeps going up and up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Radford?
Yes, Madam Chair, I've got about 3 items to cover. I first want to recognize that we have lost 2 builders in our community to their passing. One is David Hale, who is from the Hollins district, builder in the Botetourt, Roanoke County area for a long time. He gave my dad and I a piece of property we bought in '88 when I was just starting my building career. So he gave us our first First Chance, and I got to meet him out there. Made great friendships with David over the year, and he will be sorely missed in our community. We also lost J.B. Smith. He's a longtime builder, framing contractor in Roanoke County. Did a lot of homes in Roanoke County, and he started off doing framing, and then as somebody convinced him that, well, you just build the house, and so he went into his own business, building a lot of houses. Worked with Bill Reed and a lot of projects in Roanoke County and in the city. So both of those we will surely miss. But they built homes that'll last for a long time. So their footprint of the homes they built will last, and we'll see them around a long time. The third item that I want to talk about is today's consent agenda include a resolution directing the county's planning commission to review and provide recommendations regarding whether to amend the provisions of the Roanoke County zoning ordinance to restrict the operation of abortion clinics within the county's various zoning districts. So you ask, why do we want to do that? Well, there's an amendment that's going to be coming on the ballot in November, HJ1, called Reproductive Freedom Amendment. And basically, if it passes in November, it has no guardrails toward, in the amendment. It would legalize abortion up to birth. It would ease parental consent and stop reasonable safety standards. I also found out today, since it is written very broadly, and if we don't address it in a matter of zoning, you could have these abortion clinics pop up like vape shops. They could move into a strip center, and we want to direct where they're going to be. The actual ballot says this: should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to protect the freedom to make personal decisions about prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, birth control, abortion, miscarriage, management, and fertility care. Item 2, protect doctors, nurses, patients from being punished for these decisions. And 3, allow for restrictions on access to abortion during the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, except when the patient's health is at risk or the pregnancy cannot survive. And that's what the amendment will look like. So changes to the zoning ordinance will always be reviewed by the county's planning commission. Before making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, the planning commission must hold a public hearing on the matter. After receiving recommendations from the planning commission, the Board of Supervisors also must hold a public hearing on any amendments to the zoning ordinance. In short, the board is aware that this is an issue that is important to Roanoke County citizens. We hope that interested individuals will share their thoughts with the Planning Commission and the board during the public hearings, which will be scheduled on this matter. And we also know that several localities across the Commonwealth, including some of our neighbors, Bedford, Botetourt, Vinton, and Lynchburg, are reviewing this same issue in regards to zoning regulations. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Norton.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. On January 28th, staff and I met with Hollins University and others to talk about a regional economic opportunity that could develop. On Monday, February the 2nd, I testified virtually about Senate Bill 378, collective bargaining. If this bill passes, it could mean a potential $48.7 million impact on the county in the future, not to mention tax rate impact. Last week, staff, our chair, and I attended the VACO Legislative Conference and visited all of our region's 5 state delegates and 2 state senators, along with school staff, both superintendents, advocating for a pilot project for local school CSA programs. Today, if you operate your own pilot program in-house, you get no money from the state, only if you use an outside vendor, which prices are gone up to almost $60,000 a student. It's absolutely unattainable, and it is not affordable anymore, and we're trying to see if we can have a pilot program to start out with in Roanoke County, as some other parts of the state work as well. We have support from Chesapeake County, we have support from Stafford County, and we have support from some of the regional counties around here. And Delegate Rasul is helping to navigate that as a budget amendment through the current General Assembly session. Also, we advocated for airport funding as well as effective tax rate legislation discussion. HB 68 was continued over the next year, sponsored by Delegate McNamara, but we also reached across the aisle in our discussions while in Richmond and talked to Delegate Margaret Ann Franklin, as well as Lily Franklin and Rasul about this as well, because bipartisanship might be the best way to get that revisited next year for everyone in the Commonwealth that wishes to use it. That is, use state effective tax rate including inflation, because today you don't have an apples to apples comparison. In addition, we encourage everyone to vote in this year's four elections. 180 days of voting in Roanoke County is on the horizon. They're important issues. I won't get into those, but I will just say this. If you don't vote, don't complain about what you didn't vote for if it should pass or fail, whichever you advocate for. This is an important year for elections in the state of Commonwealth of Virginia. As mentioned earlier, we oppose collective bargaining and testified virtually, and I'll just say that the $48.7 million divided by $1.6 million, which is 1 cent on the tax real estate rate, would equate to 31 cents. If we raise the real estate rate in Roanoke County over a period of time to equal that number, to offset the expense of collective bargaining, every one of us up here will be replaced by somebody else. And I can just tell you that I hope that day never, ever has to come while we're serving on this Board of Supervisors or anybody else. And lastly, I will ask, Madam Chair, that we consider a date in the future to review our strategic plan update report and consider any additions to our board's strategic plan this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Hooker?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have just a few things that I wanted to mention, and the first one has to do with McAfee Knob. And the highlight for our district, the Catawba district, is McAfee's Knob with the over 50,000 hikers annually, the most photographed spot in all the Appalachian Trail. What a gem we have. We've attached our branding to it, and we just have really great news coming forward that there's going to be some funding that will be formally announced, but it's gonna really help us in that venue with parking, with bathrooms, with additional signage, and we are very much appreciative to Senator Tim Kaine for helping to push that through. The National Park Service, Appalachian Trail Conservancy, they've been great partners, and this is really going to improve that trailhead, improve the safety. Hopefully, there won't be any more people towed, all those added bonuses of that sort. So we're really excited about that. I just got a notice from a citizen, and this is directed to staff, and I'll talk to you after the meeting, but I'm just saying it out loud in case this has happened to more than this one individual. Apparently, she just received a letter telling her that her floodplain status has changed, and there was a meeting. There were meetings, if you had questions about it, that were scheduled for last week. So I'm sure that this is a result of the slowness and difficulty in delivering mail, but she just wants to know what happens next. So there may need to be some points revisited on that for some of our citizens. So I'd appreciate that help from staff. The last thing I wanted to comment on, and Phil, I appreciated your commentary on CSA, and one of the most expensive aspects of CSA is private day school. And I believe this past budget year, we only increased, I believe, 6 students in our private day school, and the price tag went up over $1 million. Just to give you an example of how this is escalating to a point that is not reasonable for the locality. So when we are talking about trying to be reasonable with tax collections and stuff, this is a way
Yes,
that
it
we can help mitigate some of these expenses of the county. So
Absolutely.
really appreciate you bringing that up, Phil. Appreciate your advocacy. We've all advocated quite a bit on this particular issue with our representatives, and will continue to advocate. It's a very important issue. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I just have a few items. One is they had apparently this past week, which I wasn't able to attend, the Mount Pleasant Volunteer Fire Department Annual Banquet, Awards and Banquet. And I want to congratulate each one of them that did receive awards and thank them for the invite, even though I wasn't able to attend. Another item that I want to thank the Roanoke County Parks and Rec, and we attended last night the 40th Annual Valentine's Dance. Phil North and I went, and what a great time we had, and it's always fun to see the folks, the clientele come in their formal wear and dancing and just having a really good time. But the main thing that I want to point out is the hard work that staff puts into this. Roanoke County is and Parks and Rec are the ones that put this on, and I'm not sure how many people do we have attend that? 250 folks attended, and they have the best time, and we actually Phil and I got to crown a king and queen, and they were just thrilled to death to be that to be their title. So thank you to the Parks and Rec and all the hard work that you put into that. And then the last thing that I have got is, Phil has already mentioned that we went to VACO this week in Richmond, and that is the first time that I have been and was able to go to the offices and meet all the local legislators. And we actually were introduced in the General Assembly, which was nice. And I want to thank Lily Franklin for that. And I want to thank Jamie Soltis and Ken Nicely for attending with us. But more than anything, I want to thank our staff that attended, Kaylin and Doug, for their hard work. And I'm sure Madeline had something to do with all the scheduling. And most of all, I have got to thank Mr. Lubeck, who walked me hand in hand so I knew where to be, when to be, and what to do. So thank you all, and that is all I've got.
You mean he didn't warn you about keeping up with me?
That was a interesting, Phil was like, what did we describe it? Sherman going to Atlanta, storming the Capitol? He was a bull in a china shop rolling up trying to get up there.
And didn't break any dishes.
That's exactly right. We all had a hard time keeping up with him, I think. And, you know, the sidewalks up there, we talk about our sidewalks and things. Theirs were still icy, and I was a little nervous trying to wear my heels and walk up the sidewalks and everything like that, so.
Yeah, and by the way, when you have to go from the 6th to 10th floor, you don't walk it necessarily. You walk it down, but not up. And we split up at one point. When we got into the steps, Peter and I went down, and everybody else had to go up one floor, and I pointed up, and people stopped. They didn't know what to do, and I'm like, no, you go up. We were going down. So that's one time we split up, and no one was following me.
Oh, yeah.
They were just
And the
going
other
down.
thing, the elevators, while this was all going on, I think they had it was either 6 or 8 elevators, but every time the doors opened, I think there were 20 people in them, and if we had tried to climb in them, we would have been on somebody's shoulders. So that took quite a while, so we ended up going to the steps
It
quite
sure
a
was
bit.
hot in that building, too. I don't know who's operating the thermostat, but it was hot. In fact, we had to constantly drink water just so we wouldn't dehydrate. And
Yeah.
I saw people with Gatorade at one time.
But thank you to staff for getting all that arranged and scheduled, and Christine's not in here, but I just want to throw a shout out to her, thanking her as well, because she put a lot of hard work into it. So anyway, we will move on to item K, work sessions. One, work session to review with the Board of Supervisors the county administrator's proposed fiscal year 2027 to 2036 capital improvement program, CIP, with Lori Gearhart. Two, work session to review the Board of Supervisors Smart Scale Round 7 potential applications with Megan Cronice, Assistant Director of Planning. And three, work session to discuss opioid abatement authority grant opportunities with Madeline Hanlon, Assistant County Administrator, and Josh Freely, Constituent Services Administrator. Momentarily, the board will recess to the third floor for the work sessions. However, before doing so, I would like to move that the board go into closed session upon the completion of the work sessions. Item L, closed session. I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. The board will discuss potential business location or expansion in all 5 magisterial districts. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. The board will now recess to the third floor for the work sessions.